Overcoming Adversity podcast, where it's all about a transformational growth and having a resilient mindset. Today's guest is Mr. Trent Brock. This guy is a three-time cancer survivor, an international business leader, and a coach. This guy has been through an insurmountable amount of adversity in his life. I had opportunity to speak to him a couple of weeks ago before we got on this podcast, and he was in the hospital and ready, pumped up to get on this podcast to tell us about his story. I can't wait to get into it. Let's go. Mr. Trent Brock, welcome to the show. How are you doing, sir?
Man, I am great. It is great to be here. The title of this podcast fits me perfectly.
Without a doubt, man.
Man, absolutely.
I said, man, when we got you originally booked to come on the podcast, I was excited, pumped up to have you on the podcast. And then once we got onto the screen, man, I saw you in the hospital, bro.
I was ready to go, man. I would do it. If I'm alive, I'm doing it, right? I do not cancel appointments.
All right, man. So if you can, man, walk us through what was going on at that moment. Why were you in the hospital at that particular moment? Because I know that you're a three-time cancer survivor. So can you tell us a little bit about why were you in the hospital? And then tell us a little bit about your journey about surviving cancer 3 times.
Sure. So, just a little background about me, because if I tell you exactly why I was in the hospital, I think I'm going to kind of ruin a little bit of the story. So let me kind of go in order here.
Okay.
I've been a world traveler. Most of my life I travel around the world and the country installing IT systems. I ended up in New Zealand, of all places, down below Australia. Mm-hmm. And I got involved in a side business while I was doing IT to do kettle corn. They didn't have kettle corn in New Zealand. So this thing blew up from me going in the markets and starting at the markets to having we're 13 years in business right now. I've got about 15 staff, two factories, 4 popcorn lines. We supply all over New Zealand, internationally, in Asia and the Middle East and stuff. All so right. About 2019, I'm kind of what we would say is on top of the popcorn world, right? And I start limping around my factory, and I go to a couple of doctors. Finally, I have to go into the hospital for some blood work. I got an x-ray that had nothing to do with it. And a week later, I got that call that changed my life, that cliche. The doctor told me that I had extensive hip cancer. And so I went through, it's a public healthcare system down there. And so the level of service is just not what we have privately in the States. It's probably what Americans think of as kind of like, probably like the VA, maybe, in your mind. So it was several months. The quality is not great there. I had the hip cancer removed, and it ended up, my leg was shorter than the other. And just to give you an idea, this was kind of the shoe that I started out with.
Right.
Okay? And I like to use visuals because this gives people an idea. You can see that, okay, that's my right side. That's the left side. There's no hip there whatsoever.
Wow.
And they put a little wire there to help the leg bone from kind of migrating up, because it was just kind of like jello in there.
Uh-huh.
So we got through that. My folks were there. They left. And then I had my next scan. Well, I had pancreas and lung cancer, both at the same time. Well, the pancreas thing is less than 5% chance to make it. And so that's obviously the more serious thing. So I had that surgery, and the surgery went okay, but they kind of spun the results on me when we talked about it. They say, "Congratulations, you don't have cancer." And I'm like, okay, well, what happened? And in the end, it turned out to be a blood clot misdiagnosis.
What?
They removed half of my pancreas and spleen. And
what?
yes.
Oh my God.
No repercussions, no consequences for this, right? You can't do anything. It's public health care. I could fill out a complaint form. They were actually quite arrogant to me about it. And
Wow.
I just kind of, I was astounded, right? Yeah. So the pancreas is like regulates your blood sugar and enzymes in your stomach. And it's like the whole thing with diabetes and all that kind of stuff, right?
Mhm.
So I don't have it, but the risk and things are there.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. Like, what is the risk of losing all those things, and there's no repercussions behind that either?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, man, I had a tube that they had hanging out of me with a bag, like someone would think of like a colostomy bag for several months until
Mhm.
the thing healed up. Because basically, your pancreas is kind of like a sausage, and luckily, I had the supposed cancer on the bottom end, so they just chopped the thing in half and pulled it out. Right, so the top end was good because it's still connected to all the tubes and all
Mhm.
the everything. So I have half a pancreas. So yeah, my blood sugar has been elevated for years. And I'll tell you what, recently it's now come down. And so
Mhm.
I think, with a lot of prayer, a lot of mindset, a lot of, things and that I've done to change my diet and things, I'm going to be okay with that. Right.
Mhm.
So we get through that. Okay. Bittersweet. Let's say, okay, we didn't have cancer. We're still alive. Right. So
Right.
we have the lung surgery. Okay, fine. That went okay. That got infected. Okay. My hip had been infected ever since the first surgery that I had a year ago, and they had done about 6 surgeries after that to try to get the infection out. Couldn't get it out. So I had been living with an infected hip,
Let
and
me
then
ask you this question, Trent. So, when you were having surgery, were they all at the same hospitals after the first one, or from following that, did you choose to go to different hospitals?
I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice because it's public health care. So it's like months in between to see a doctor, months before your scheduled surgery. You're just happy that something's going to happen, right?
All right.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's different surgeons, obviously, because it's different specialties, but it's the same. It's the same Auckland healthcare system. It's government run. It's state countrywide run. So it just is what it is. Yeah. So yeah, I had the lung surgery, and the orthopedic found out that I was in the hospital, and I had been avoiding them because I didn't want anything else done to the hip. They had had all their chances. I'm like, I know one day I'm going to go back to the States. I'll deal with it then. So he got me, and we had another surgery to take out that wire that I was telling you about, right?
Mhm.
That's right here. And so what happened is they took that wire out because that was the source of the infection. It really wasn't. And so then in time, you can see where where my leg bone ended up. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So just to
Looked like
give,
your leg bone was about to be in your stomach or something.
dude, that was the joke that it was going to end up in my mouth and I wouldn't need a toothpick. Seriously, I was afraid it was going to end up in my guts, right? Because here's the thing. Seriously, that was the joke with me and the doc. This is what I was dealing with. Over time, when it started, it was this. Over time, it became this.
So you went from wearing clog type of shoes because of they had to cut it, I assume, and then to the point of so you tell me they cut about 4 to 5 inches of bone.
Well, what happened
You
is
could compensate.
when they removed you. So this side is the hip, right? You can see
Right,
the
right,
hip bone,
right.
and you can see the leg bone connected there.
Hmm.
Well, since there's not any leg bone, any hip bone here, the leg bone has moved all the way here.
I see.
It should be down there. So that's 4.5 inches or so,
Hmm.
right? So and so they had a junior doctor do that, right? I thought the orthopedic surgeon was going to do it, the one that did my original. He came in, he organized everything. Well, the guy botched it up totally. I had this junior surgeon that did it. I ended up with what they call a surgical hernia. That is actually my intestines They're hanging over my waistline right here. Okay. And that didn't give me too many issues, but I also had bladder issues. So like you can imagine an infected leg that's super short, trying to get up in the middle of the night, 2 or 3 times in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. It's just a nightmare, and every time I constantly, you're on a trip, you got to pull over, you got to go to the rest area. It's a nuisance, right? Things have gotten better in time on that as well, right? So a 2-week thing with the lung, then the leg turned into 2.5 months. Okay. I got out. Well, actually, what happened was they kind of rushed me out of the hospital. They were like, "Look, you've been here long enough. We think you're ready to go." I still had an infected lung, infected hip. I was on crutches. I had an IV line in my arm to try to for all the drugs they were giving me for the infection. I had a machine on my hip that was actually trying to try to pull out and keep the wound dry, because a dry environment is much better for healing than something that's wet. So I got a machine that I have to carry around my neck everywhere I go. But I'm ready to go. I'm ready to leave, right? So basically, I felt like that. Yeah, man, it's crazy. This story gets better, man. This is about half of it, right? So they basically kicked me out of the hospital, I felt like. And 2 or 3 days later, I start kind of having like the sweats and cold, and I'm aggravated, and I'm impatient, and I can't figure out what's going on. It clicked with me while I'm sitting in my office in my underwear with my door locked, because I'm so hot, I'm just dripping sweat. I'm having withdrawal from methadone. Okay. In New Zealand, they give people methadone for pain management. We all know, yes, we all know methadone for heroin withdrawal.
Right.
Right. And you do use that. So they
had seen a movie about that. Go ahead. I'm listening.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. So they had that. They used it on me with my leg for the hip surgery. I had no issues with it when they stepped me down off of it. Well, they it was so quickly, and I still was on methadone when I left the hospital. They just didn't give me anything when I left. I didn't even think anything about it. It was crazy how quickly I left, right?
Right.
I mean, like, dude, they got the nurse. They packed me up. They took me downstairs. They put me in a taxi and sent me home.
Was there any physical therapy even attached to that or anything?
Here's the deal. Almost everybody that has this kind of a hip cancer, they cut the leg off. So they don't even know how to do therapy with this.
Oh, geez.
The therapy that I've done, I've had to recreate and figure out through trial and error myself. Okay.
Yeah. I gotta ask this question, Trent. At any point, did you ever said, like, can I have the surgery in the United States?
Here's the thing, right? I hadn't been back to this. I hadn't lived in the States in 15 years. Why do I need insurance? Right. So I don't have insurance. I'm not going to come home and bankrupt my parents and potentially die on them too. Right. I was just thinking, I just got to ride this out, man. I just got to ride this thing out. And so, that was my mindset.
I see.
Right. So the methadone thing, I went through withdrawal. I tried to get methadone outside the hospital. I obviously had been discharged, so they wouldn't take me back in. It's very difficult to find any pharmacies that serve methadone. The ones that do treat you like a crackhead. It's horrific, man. So I actually did it the hard way. And I went through withdrawal on that. Suicidal thoughts. I was so close to ending it, man. It was horrific. It was horrific, man. It was probably 5 or 6 weeks of that. So I can tell you, man, if you've ever worked with anybody that's beaten addiction, I will tell you, out of all the health issues that I'm telling you, I'm not even done yet. This mental thing with the methadone was by far the worst thing I ever dealt with all the health stuff I've dealt with. So anybody that's ever beat addiction, man, kudos to you. You are tough. You have a mindset, and you should be proud of yourself, right? Okay, so we got through all that. We're out of the hospital. Still working, still going to the factory. Next scan. No, you really do have pancreas cancer this time, right? For sure you do. And I said, guys, I need a biopsy this time because you wouldn't do one last time. So I actually had the same surgeon. They wouldn't give me anyone else because this guy that I had happened to be the best pancreas surgeon in the country. So I still had to deal with this guy that had misdiagnosed me. That, yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, you can imagine me having to go in to see this guy. I can't stand this guy. I
Right.
hate him, right? So several months, right, of me and him arguing. I said, look, I'm not doing anything but radiation. He wouldn't approve me for it. He wanted to do surgery. I said, no, I'm not doing surgery. You're not gonna surgically make me a diabetic. I won't go out that way. I'll die of cancer before I do that. My
Mhm.
grandmother was diabetic. I can't do it. Okay.
Mhm.
Several months, finally got the biopsy. Okay. And I was at this point, I had gotten smart. I was getting the scan results. I was reading the reports, and the sizes of things. When they found it, it was that big. Okay.
Mhm.
By the time I got the biopsy, it was the size of a tennis ball.
Oh my God.
I got a scan. I got another scan. It was growing into my stomach. They said, look, it's progressed too far. We can't do anything about it. We can't do surgery. You could die on the operating table. We can't do radiation. We could burn a hole through you. We're not going to do anything. And I said, guys, you have to do something. If you don't do anything, I'm going to die. And they said, well, we can't do anything. So you're sending me home to die, right? Seriously, seriously. So I'm like, okay, well, what am I gonna do? And my dad and I were on the phone one day brainstorming, and he just said, hey, look, I know you hadn't been here in a long time, and but a lot of things in the medical field have changed. You should check out if you can get insurance. So I started looking into it. I actually could, even with the pre-existing conditions that I have. It's expensive, but it wasn't going to break the bank, right?
Was it medical insurance or was it like life insurance?
Yeah,
Okay.
medical insurance that's like through like it's kind of facilitated through the government, right?
Mhm. I see.
But you still can get private insurance, and it's just one of the things that some of the Congress voted on years ago that they changed, and luckily they did, or I'd be dead. So I came home, and by that time, gosh, I don't even know where he is. Oh, by that time, right? I came in and I saw a radiation doctor here, and I told him my concerns, and he said, look, the machinery you have here is pretty good. And if we don't do something, you're going to die of this, and you're going to die soon. So by the time that they did the surgery, that they did the radiation, it was the size of a softball. From the time they found it to the time they did the radiation, it grew that much in 6 months. It was growing into my stomach. I could hardly eat. I was losing weight. I could look in the mirror. I was pale. I was dying, man. I was for sure dying. So we did the radiation. I had to wait 3 months. Well, we got it. Okay. Then
Mhm.
the next thing was, what are we going to do? Well, I have this infection in my hip. We found a doctor. He said, look, hey man, we have some antibiotics that you didn't use in New Zealand. Let's try these. I think it'll work. So I had to go in. I had to do 3 months of antibiotics. It would make me sick. I would get sick all the time. I had to do 2 hours of antibiotics every day for 3 months straight. Got
How was your mindset knowing that you have to keep on going through like this daunting process, procedures,
Well, I'll
these
tell you.
communications?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. When I was in New Zealand one day, and I was on the phone with my parents, when I was trying to figure out when I was going to come home, right about the time that they told me it's over for you, we're not going to do anything for you. I was on the phone with my parents, and this is my moment right here. I just felt the hopelessness in their voice, and the despair that their son was dying and there was nothing they could do halfway across the world. And I just
Mhm.
decided, you know what, man? I don't care what I'm going to do. I'm never going to quit. I am going to fight this thing with everything I've got. I am going to do everything I can. And I know from the things that I've done, people are made up. A human being is made up of 5 things: their mind, will, emotions, their body, and their spirit, right?
Mhm.
I got to fix all 5 of those things. And I started working on them. So I changed my diet. I started doing yoga, man. I couldn't even get out of the chair, man. I was doing chair yoga for 3 or 4 minutes a day.
Wow.
I just kept working up, working up. I came home, right? And I started changing my mind. Nothing negative. If I wasn't at work, I was 100% doing anything and everything I could to change my mindset, because I had to convince myself. I had over five surgeons tell me, from my orthopedic to my pancreas doctor, my lung doctor, this is going to kill you. You're going to die from this. I have a report from an oncologist telling me you will be dead in a year. I've got all these experts telling me this stuff, right? I have got to say, no, you guys are wrong. You don't know me. I am a fighter. I will never quit, and I will beat this. I have less than a 5% chance, but all I need is a chance, man. You know, all I need is a chance. And so I
Man.
started listening to miracle sermons, right? If I saw, I would watch movies on TV about how somebody, overcame something, or how Rudy overcame it. And I would picture myself, I'd visualize it. I was Rudy, man. I was doing meditation. I was listening to uplifting music that made me happy. I changed my diet. I did everything I could, right? If I would go to sleep, man, listening to something that was positive, and I would wake up in the morning having it on repeat, and I would still be listening to it to get it in my soul. And that's how I did it, man. I changed my mindset to believe that I could beat it no matter what. And
I love that you had that will, that determination, and that belief in yourself, knowing that you could conquer all of these things, showing like your side of being resilient.
Yep.
I'm thinking about something that you just said though, because there's an additional layer to that some people that listening may overlook.
Okay.
You were going through all of that, and you also said that you went to work.
I what?
And you went to work.
Oh yeah, I never quit working. Never
So,
quit. I own my
so,
own business.
so so being a business owner
Yeah.
and dealing with these health issues,
Yeah.
let's talk about the aspects of how that intertwined and was messing with your decision making, your work schedule, your working with your employees, and operating your business overall in general. How was
Yeah.
that affecting you, or if it affected anything at all? And how did you stay focused at work?
Well, I'll tell you what, it changed from me actually physically leading the team,
Right.
like going out in the factory and doing stuff. It
Hmm.
changed from that to me actually being the brains to the thing. And I already was, right? I was the brains and some of the brawn. And I like to teach my guys,
I see.
And so I didn't. It was really good for them, because they had to learn to do things on their own.
Did,
And
did
my team was very understanding. And I'll tell you, at times it was actually good that I still had work, because staring at the walls all day, thinking about your health situation does nothing but make you more depressed.
right.
But I couldn't do that. I had to kick myself in the butt and say, you know what? I got this stuff. And you know what happened is, I begin to approach my health like a business situation. Take my feelings out of it, and just, these are the facts. You got to deal with the facts. You cannot get sad or upset. You just got to deal with it. Some days are good, some days are bad. Some deals are good, some deals are bad. But overall, and I'll tell you, it was at times actually, a place, kind of a place where I could find a bit of just getting away from
I see.
all of it. So I used it, as a crutch in a way, to get away from the health.
Was your escape? Yeah.
And yeah, that's exactly what it was. And my team was understanding. My team couldn't believe that no one can believe that I've been in the States 2 years. My business is still running. I run this thing remotely every day. I'm still working. We're still making money. We're still making popcorn. We're still paying the bills. We still got the lights on, and people can't believe it. But I don't quit, man. I just made my mind up. I'm not gonna quit. And so if you have a will, there's a way. There really is. And I got some good managers, and people are understanding, and they're like, wow, if this guy's gonna put this much effort in to do this, I can at least meet him part way, right? And so that's what people do. My suppliers, my team, my guys, everybody, man. And so it's tough. It's been an adjustment for everybody.
It has been, man.
Yeah.
You kind of touched on this a little, but I want for you to share some stuff with our listeners, Trent. You've been through a great deal of some things that could have taken your life.
Absolutely.
And through all of that, obviously you did not give up and you made a decision that I'm not giving up.
Yeah.
What could you speak to with some of our listeners right now that is going through some tough times, a tough situation in their life? And what could you share with them to inspire them with your bit of resilience of all of the things that you've been through, man? Because
Sure.
it's remarkable.
Sure. Sure. Well, I'll tell you, a lot of times, right, in a situation like this, you get into a state of indecision, right?
Hmm.
You get some news and you're kind of you kind of aren't sure, and then maybe you have a good day and you feel a little better. You have to draw a line in the sand and make a decision and say, this is my decision. I'm not wavering on it. And then you have to have a reason that's maybe even better than what you're trying to do or what your goal is. And what I did is, and what I have is I have a vision board now.
Hmm.
Okay. And I have parts of that up and in all the places I go. So I've got it up in my bedroom, I've got it up in my bathroom, in the car, and in my office or on my computer.
Hmm.
So I never ever forget what I'm working towards, even when I'm having a tough day. Right. I'm always working on that reason. And here's the thing: I got a couple of analogies that I really like to use for people. Okay. Let's say, like with me, I've had this cancer 3 times, and people kind of like to dig me a little bit, and they like to ask me, "Hey, aren't you afraid you're going to get cancer again?" And I'm like, "Absolutely not." Well, how do you know you're not? And I said, because my life is like a deck of cards. There's only 52 cards in that deck, right? And I got some pretty bad cards in the beginning, early in life, and I played those cards. They almost killed me, but
Hmm.
I played those, and they're not in my hand anymore. And so
Mm.
when I pull something new off that deck, it's not going to be one of those cards
Right.
because those are gone. So I got good cards in my hand now, and I'm playing with a good hand, right?
Mhm.
And here's the next analogy I like to give people. It got so dadgum serious about this life and death. Are you going to live? Or are you going to die? Right? And people talk about this game of life, right? There's even a board game called the game of life, right?
Right.
I took it down to the simple for me. I'm from the South, man. So my game's football, right?
Mine too.
Yeah. So here's the deal, right? I'm the quarterback of this game.
Mm.
It's my game. Okay. It's my game. And I call the plays. The people on my team are some of my doctors, some of my friends, right? They're helping me gain the yardage. But hey, when we watch a football game, you're not winning every play. You don't get yardage every play, right? And I'll tell you what, sometimes you get tired. Sometimes you don't know what to do. Well, when you do that, you call a timeout and you go to the sidelines. You talk to your coach. That may be your counselor. That may be your family. That may be one of your best friends you confide in. And you figure out what you're going to do. And you get back in the game and you go for that play the next day and you
Right.
get some positive yards. And so, a couple of my touchdowns were beating cancer,
Hmm.
beating the infection. And then, like you saw me getting my hip, because my number 3 touchdown is I will get off these crutches. I will be walking in a year. And I had no chance to do that ever. Okay. I was on crutches. I was deemed to be on crutches in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. I found somebody to help me to put a hip implant in there. And I don't mind. I'll do the hard work to get there. I'll do the exercises. I'll go through the pain. I'll do whatever it takes because I know what I want to know what I need to do with my team on the football field to get to that touchdown. So
I got to ask you this, Trent. Being someone that has been through this experience, how important is a support system and your belief system in regards to having this particular mindset that you have?
It has been crucial. Okay. I have wonderful parents, man. I am very fortunate. My folks are great people. They have been with me from the start. And I mean, hey man, I've had some rough days, man. And my emotions, God, you can only imagine at times, my emotions, but my parents would never buy into it. They would never ever go along with it. They would do everything they could to help keep me on the straight and narrow, on the positive, praying hard. We're going to do this. We're going to fight this. When I was having a tough day, man, they'd pick me up and they would help me out, and my belief system is, I'm a Christian, I mean, I am not like this over the top, just crazy Jesus freak guy, but I have a spiritual belief, man. I
Right.
believe in God and Jesus and the Bible. And I know when I die, I'm going to heaven. And I know that he wants the best for me, man. And when I pray, I believe that he's helping me. And I'm telling you, if you don't believe that some of the things that I've told you are not miracles, then you don't believe in miracles, man. Right?
Absolutely.
I know less than a 5% chance to make it with a tumor this big. I had no chance, man. I had been all over the country talking to doctors everywhere going, we can't do anything for you. This hip's infected. We can't do. I mean, I just kept getting no's, no, 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 no. And I just said, I won't give up. I'm going to keep trying. And I found somebody. I found a guy. This is what he does, man. This is all he does, you know? And so when you saw me, I was in the hospital in recovery. Let me show you what this thing looks like now, right? So this is the largest, most complex hip implant ever done to date, right?
Wow.
There are about 7 or 8 screws going across me.
Hmm.
There are rods in my back. There are procedures that have been done that have never been done before. You can see how big this implant is. They put a rod down my leg bone. I mean, man, hey, I'm gonna be walking in a year. I
I
promise.
want to follow up on that, Trent. So,
You got it. You got it.
you know, I've had a orthoscopic hip surgery. Nothing, obviously, to the degree of what you've been through.
Sure.
Now, but what I imagine of what you're talking about, I think of, and actually the question about like physical therapy and all those things after surgery.
Yeah.
So, how has this impacted your life, your overall well-being? And I mean that as in like relationships, right? What does it mean when you're traveling, going to the airport, driving your car, or you want to get out and go to the grocery store, or moving around in your house and things like that? Can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about what that is like for you as you're going through some of these things?
Absolutely. I mean, I went, from an in shape guy that went to the gym. I did boxing and kickboxing and stuff like that to handicapped, right?
All right.
I mean, it's soul destroying. It's just, I mean, it's just so depressing. I can't, I can't do a lot of the things that I need to do. And I'm an independent guy, man. I would love to help you. I would love to help you, but no, I don't need any help, right? I own my own business across the world. I don't need anybody to help me do anything. But now I do.
Hmm.
I'm humble. I'm
Hmm.
more humble than I was, man. And I need help to carry things. I need help to carry my dinner plate to the table. I need help to carry my drink. I figured out ways. I mean, I'm very resourceful, man. I
All
got a
right.
backpack. I could carry all my groceries in the house or stuff like that or whatever. I mean, not much slows me down, but I mean, I'm probably never going to kickbox ever again. I
Hmm.
mean, if I do that, that'll be I can't even fathom being able to do that. But I mean, hey, it doesn't matter. I can get on an exercise bike. I can still go to the gym. There are things that I can't do that I'll never be able to do again. And I'll tell you what, you take for granted very small things in life, man. And that's what I was doing. Right. I wasn't appreciative of, just I mean, being able to eat a meal and not get sick,
Hmm.
just even enjoying a meal, right?
Hmm.
Even being hungry or being able to walk, or can you imagine now me trying to have a girlfriend? I mean, dude, it's just, it's very hard. It's very difficult. Like I've been in, I mean, after I got cancer free, I wouldn't date while I had cancer. That wasn't fair. I couldn't do that. But once
Right.
I was cancer free, I wanted to date. I want, to have somebody. I want a romantic relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've dated a few girls along the way. You know what, man? It in the beginning, they all act like it's okay, but it's the thing that broke us up.
Wow.
They couldn't deal with it, man. It's tough,
Wow.
man. It's tough. So I know, I mean, that's tough because I can't even change that. But here's the thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Here's the thing. Not the right one.
It's not the right one, and you're a man of faith, man. So God answers all praise, and He sees everything
Oh
and
yeah.
knows everything, man.
Oh yeah. When I'm ready with the
Right.
right thing, and the right thing's gonna happen. I mean, I'm with a wonderful girl now,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah. I mean, she doesn't care about any of that kind of stuff, man.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I mean, she's
So,
amazing, amazing.
so
So
Trent, I was gonna add to that. Showing all of the X-rays that you've been through. I have a couple friends that served in the military with me, and some of them are amputees,
yeah,
and some of them were in some of the same situations that you've been in, and they did the same thing that you did, where they decided to fight. They decided to become resilient, and
yep,
they decided to live life. So they decided to get into adaptive sports and adaptive living. They started getting their service dogs and things like that to get back into life and get back into the group. And a lot of them are living very, very, very happy lives. So I encourage you, my friend.
thank you.
I encourage you, my friend, to look into some of these things that,
Sure.
you know, it's not over. It's just a new beginning, just a different form of life, different way of
That's
life,
it.
and things like that. But there's a world out there for people that's doing tons of adaptive things they could
You
get
got it.
into. I've seen guys surfboarding. I've seen guys skiing.
Yep.
I've seen guys doing wheelchair basketball, wheelchair rugby,
Yeah.
you name it. So I just know that there's tons of things out there in this world that people that are in wheelchairs. If you're listening to this podcast, there's tons of opportunities out there in this world. If you are looking into things for adaptive sports or just adaptive living and things like that.
Yeah.
So Trent, man, before we get out of here,
Yeah.
you've shared a remarkable story. 3 times cancer survivor. You're an international business owner. You're also a coach. Can you share with us some advice, some tips, based off some of the things in your life, man, from either through business, through your experiences, that if it's just to impact one of our listeners that's listening to this podcast, man?
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things I'll go back to is, you make a decision, right? And then you have to have a good reason for that decision, and you need to have visual examples around in places that you frequent that are there, and you see those and they remind you, because man, every day is not going to be good. And
Right.
here's the thing, right? I like to have long-term goals. That's what I like to look out for. But here's the thing. It's day by day. It's just day by day. And I knew that if I put enough days together to where I was going to get to my goal, right? I'm going to climb that ladder. And it's just like a football game, right? I'm just putting those plays together. I'm just putting a little play together, little more, little more, little more, and I'm getting a first down. And then I got a reset of downs, and then I'm getting a little more, and I'm going to get there. And hey, you know what? I'm gonna lose some yardage. I don't make a cook. Every play, I don't make a good call, right? You can't beat yourself up, because what I would do is, man, like I'd go to the doctor, man, and I'd get some bad news. It just ruin me. It would just deflate me. It would crush me, and I'd been
Right.
having a good week. What I would do is I'd just take the rest of the day off. I'd take the afternoon off. I'd go to a place where I was comfortable and do something that I enjoyed. And I would just let my mind relax, and I would take my time out, and I
Right.
would say, you know what? I'm going to think about my options. and I'm going to weigh those options. If I can't figure out what I think my decision is going to be, I'm going to talk with somebody that I trust to help me make that decision. And tomorrow morning, when I wake up, it's a brand new day, and we are going to have that decision made, and we are going to go for it, man. You know, and
Absolutely.
that's how and I'm getting some positive yards tomorrow. I got, you know, that's how I do it, man. That's how to do it.
Man, your story is so remarkable, man. I'm truly inspired and honored to hear your story. Honored to have you come on this platform and tell me about it. You know, like I said, brother, we met a couple weeks ago,
Yeah,
and you were one of the first persons I've ever seen that came on here in a situation that you were in, was just so willing and vulnerable to share your story.
absolutely.
And I'm thinking about from the surgeries, the meth, right? I think just to add a little tad bit, the show that I was talking about is called Painkillers, and it was speaking about somebody that was going through withdrawal. But
Okay.
with that being said, man, I just want to tell you, brother, thank you so much for coming on here, being totally vulnerable and transparent.
My
And
pleasure.
like we always said on this show, man, we just try to get people on here that's going to help share their stories of adversity to make an impact at least to one person that's listening to this podcast. So with that being said, man, I just want to tell you thank you so much. It's truly an honor to have you here on the show.
You got it. My pleasure, man. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Trent, if anybody wanted to get a hold of you or work with you or book you on a podcast or reach out to you, brother, how can they get a hold of you, man?
Yeah, please email me. You can email me at trentbrock@yahoo.com. That's super easy. And then, I got my Facebook, Trent Brock, and you'll find me. I'm doing my victory pose in my photo, man, just like that, baby. That's what it's about. So, yep, the Facebook or the email. I'd love to hear from you. Want to say hi? You want to give me a shout out? You need some advice? I don't care. I'd love to hear from you. I just love people. So.
Thank you so much, Trent. Guys, until we see you guys next time, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. We drop episodes weekly. God bless.
Can't complain at all. Couple dollars in my pocket, no income and go. Been working on my body, getting healthier. Thank God for clarity.